Okay, so lesson 6 introduces students to free-form shapes. Remember, free-form shapes are shapes that differ from geometric shapes because free-form shapes have no set standard or names. So when we talk about free-form shapes, we know what geometric shapes are. And we know geometric shapes are shapes like rectangles, triangles, circles, squares, ovals. Are shapes that have names. So if you come across a shape that doesn't have a name, like a cloud, a tree, a person, um, those are all shapes, right? But they're not geometric shapes. So anytime you run across a shape that is not a shape that has a name, it's not a square, rectangle, triangle, circle, or one of those shapes, then we call that a free form shape. Okay?
Have you ever seen an unusual shadow on the wall?
¿Alguna vez han visto una sombra rara en la pared?
Ooh, we have something cool that we're going to look at today. So you're going to be able to identify freeform shapes around you in your environment. You will be able to create a freeform shadow puppet at the end of this lesson if you want to. It all depends on if you have supplies at home or not. And we're going to be looking at 2 types of shadow puppets that you might see in the Pacific. Okay? So before we do that, I'm going to pop on over and I'm going to show you a little video about these shadow puppets. So hold your horses. Hold your horses. Where is it? Here we go. And it's called the Wayang Shadow Puppets. Okay?
Renowned for its elaborate puppets and complex musical styles, the ancient wayang form of storytelling originated on the Indonesian island of Java. For 10 centuries, wayang flourished at the royal courts of Java and Bali, as well as in rural areas. Today, wayang is practiced not only on Java and Bali, but also on the islands of Lombok, Madura, Sumatra, and Borneo, where various local performance styles and musical accompaniments have developed. Wayang performances are visually striking, owing mainly to the puppets themselves. Although these carefully handcrafted objects vary considerably in size, shape and style, 2 principal types prevail.
So there's 2 different
The
types.
3-dimensional wooden puppet.
There's a 3-dimensional wooden puppet.
Golek.
And there's the flat ones.
And the flat leather shadow puppet, wayang kulit, projected in front of a screen lit from behind. Both types are characterized by stylized costumes and facial features, and articulated body parts. The master puppeteer, or dalang, carefully manipulates the swiveling arms by means of slender sticks attached to the puppets.
Okay, so those are the 2 types. This is the Indonesian shadow puppet, and this is the one they were just talking about. Wayang kulit is an ancient tradition in the Indonesian culture, which started on the island of Java. It's one of the oldest storytelling techniques in the world. Wayang means shadow, and kulit means leather. The stories are acted out by the puppets. They're usually long. The stories are usually like some old tales that they get from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which is an Indian epic poem. And they would use the oil lamps on the screens. The oil lamps light the screens for the productions, and then they would get behind it. Kind of like when you put your hands in front of a flashlight and you make the shadows on the wall. They did this, and they cut out these leather pieces, and they would create these fine pieces of art like you saw in the video, and they would create these shadow puppets. And this is before they had movie theaters and stuff like that. So it's a form of entertainment. So the good characters in this one are kept on the right side, and then the bad characters are on the left side, and they would play out this battle between the good and the bad, and you could watch it. And the person who usually was the puppeteer was called the dalang. Now that is the Indonesian shadow puppet. And you can see that had a lot of details and stuff like that. So this particular one was 31 inches. Okay. So if you look closely at it, you'll see it's got the 3 sticks that he talked about. And so it moves the arms. And then these pieces right here have like little metal pieces, and so that his arms gyrate, and you could move the sticks, and his arms would move with them. Okay, this actual piece was created in 1950. Then you have the one in Thailand. Okay, this is where I'm from, and this is Nang Talung. It's an ancient form of entertainment in Thailand, and it's thought to be inspired by the Indonesian wayang kulit. So it is that word is for leather. However, so it means spirit or shadow. So you would find more of this, like if you went to Thailand, which is right above Indonesia. It's southern Thailand is where it's really, really popular, where they do the shadow puppets. And it was just another type of shadow puppet at theater. The only difference is that these puppets are a lot bigger. They're almost a foot tall, and they create intricate cutworks in the background. And then the Thai ones don't have any moving parts. It's just basically a puppet they hold up on a stick, and they kind of move it around. So it's not as intricate as the Indonesian ones. Usually a fifth of the size, and they do not have moving parts. If you look closely, it also has a little stand on it. This one's 25 inches. This one actually does have little moving arms, which is weird because usually they're just cut out pieces on like a stick. Okay, so look at both works of art. Artists often use freeform shapes in their works of art. Both of these pieces are shadow puppets, and they're made using freeform shapes. Okay. Study both works of art to find the freeform shapes. And we know that in this one, what shapes do you see? Well, they're both freeform shapes, obviously. They don't really have, the only geometric shapes that I see on here, I can identify a circle, a triangle tooth, a triangle here, I see a circle. But for the most part, these are freeform shapes because it's not a circle, triangle, or a square. They're just a bunch of, maybe some ovals right here. But for the most part, this is a person, so it's considered a freeform shape. You might be able to find some freeform shapes, geometric shapes within the picture. Same thing with this one. Let's see what we see. I know that the base of this thing is a geometric shape. We know that's a rectangle, okay? And then there's a bunch of little dots and stuff like that. You can actually see the different geometric shapes in the design, maybe little polka dots, circles here, some circles here. But for the most part, I see a circle. For the most part, a triangle is a freeform shape. Okay. Interesting. Do you see any geometric shapes other than the ones I showed you, that the eyes? Can you think of any other names to describe the freeform shapes? What I just said, let's see here. It's an open question, so you can brainstorm different names for different shapes and stuff like that. Heart-shaped, finger shape, body shape, foot shape, flowers, a freeform shape. Okay. So not all shapes in the works of art are called geometric shapes. Some shapes are freeform shapes. Freeform shapes are irregular. Irregular is just another fancy word for not regular. Okay? And they look very different every time they're drawn. Freeform shapes do not have specific names. Some examples of freeform shapes are splashes, blobs, and sails. So here's a shape. It's not a rectangle. It's not a triangle. It's not a square. So if it's a shape that's not a rectangle, triangle, square, or circle, then we call it a freeform. This is not a circle. This is not a square. This is not an oval. It's not a triangle. It's a blob. So we call it a freeform. Not a circle, not a square, not a triangle. It's a blob or a splatter. So we call those freeform shapes. Easy enough, right? So if you were cutting a freeform shape to make a shadow puppet, you could cut shapes. You could draw it first, and then you can cut out a shape and attach it to a popsicle stick or a pencil. Put some tape on it, and then you could hold it in front of a lamp in your house or a flashlight, and you could create a puppet if you wanted to. Let me see what this looks like. Okay, that is just an example. You can make any shape that you want to. Cut it out. It kind of look like this one. This one is a puppet that a little Mandeep Kaur, 7-year-old, made his little puppet, and he just glued it down to a piece of paper, but he put little sticks on the hands, and it kind of looks like a puppet. It looks like a scarecrow. But if it wasn't attached to the piece of paper, he could take it and he could move the arms and stuff like that. So there's an arm that's separate, and there's like a little brad or a little thing connecting it to his hand, and you'd connect these little metal pieces to parts that you would want it to move. Okay, think about where the freeform shapes are in the student's shadow puppet. I see freeform shapes in the hair, freeform shapes in the fingers and the arms, freeform shapes in the foot. I see geometric shapes for the pants, and I see a geometric shape for this. So what kind of shapes could you use to make people? Make a person shadow puppet by using different body parts. Think of a puppet you would like to create, draw it, cut out all the different pieces and any details to the parts that you wish. You can attach the moving parts and then tape the puppet to a pencil or a stick. You could add the costume and decorate it, add ribbon, whatever you want to, or you could just make a paper one. Hold the puppet in front of a light to make a chateau. So let's look at this. So here's an example of someone's cutting out different pieces like a head, arms, legs. It's up to you. And then they attach them to a stick, and then they hold it up in front of the light, and they make their own puppet. Does it have to have moving parts? No, it could be like the one from Thailand that doesn't have any moving parts. It just looks like it's just a cutout of you can see the outline of it like on a stick, and you can tell a story and do that too. You don't have to do this, but this would be something that would be kind of fun for you to do. What would be cool? If you did make one for Extra Kitty, you could make a little puppet and record it with your phone. And you could show us if you wanted to do something fun like that. You could make your own little story and send it to me, and then we'll play it for the class. What kind of puppet did you make? Which shapes are freeform? Which shapes are geometric? How would your design be different if you used only geometric shapes? If you make another puppet, what will you do differently? So you have completed lesson 6. So make sure that you take the little quiz after this as soon as you're finished watching this video, and make sure that you turn it in to me before October the 15th. I believe lesson 7, which we're going to do in a little bit, is the end of the unit where you have your little test, and we're going to review everything that you've learned from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 6. See you later.